Hi and welcome. I am Desiree Holmes Scherini, your host of Intuitive Journey with Desiree, and I'm so happy to have you here. And I'm really happy to have a guest, Tomas Garza, and I'll be interviewing him today, and we will be finding out all about him. Now, Tomas is, I met him through something that I'll talk about later, but he is a podcast host of Decide to Transform. He's also does his podcast production, and he's a council member of the Faculty Relations and Media at the International Academy of Universal Self-Mastery, and the acronym is IAUSM, and later on we'll be telling you why it's awesome. Tomas began a personal meditation practice in the mid-1980s and began teaching meditation in 2018. And he appreciates the mental and emotional space that we can create with any mindfulness practice. He likes the space to make different decisions at any time, space to undertake massive transformation in our lives. And stay calm, stay cool is one of Tomas's favorite things to say. And like, believe me, that's really useful, Tomas, right? He loves to hike. He loves hot climates, and that's wonderful because he lives with his wife, Cindy, in Phoenix, Arizona. And I just found that out when I was reviewing his bio to talk to him. You know, with the way we've been talking, like with Zoom for months, and I don't realize where people are. So welcome, Tomas. Thank you for coming and being here with me today.
Well, thank you very much, Desiree. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great. And Tomas interviewed me, as a matter of fact, for the International Academy of Universal Self-Mastery. I know I'm going to get that wrong one of these days with the I'll accept those words. So we had a really nice talk and enjoyed talking so much. We felt like there was so much more to say. We said, hey, let's set up, some more interviews. And so here he is. So Tomas, I'm going to kind of just start asking questions, and hopefully we'll just kind of flow into information coming out without, too much work, because I think it's going to be easy. So I'm just curious, you as a person, what is your background? Before we even get into what you do, like, how did you grow up? What's your background? Where'd you come from, and kind of your path to where you are now?
All right. Well, I guess that's how much time do we have? Because that's a lot.
I don't know, an hour or so.
An hour or so. I
or
love it.
less,
Okay. Well,
we can
yeah.
always do a second interview. If it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's fun because there's so much to that.
Yeah. It's like, tell me your whole life, Tomas, and we've got make it.
Well, the quick answer is we're all still here, and yes, the highlight reel is I grew up near here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, just one state over here, and I spent a lot of time outside for one reason or another as a kid, and in the mountains, hiking, fishing, just being outside, camping was a major part of my life. And it was also a major part of my life growing up because I actually was raised in a very tense home environment. My mother, who passed away 4 years ago, was a very hardcore alcoholic. So we're just going to cut right to the nitty gritty on this show. Now, that was the situation that I was raised in. So I wound up spending a lot of time outside of the house just to be by myself. That was my coping mechanism, was to get away. And I wound up really cultivating a love of the outdoors and sunlight and hot climates, which is one of the reasons why Cindy and I live down here in Arizona.
Well, I don't blame you. Did you have brothers and sisters that you grew up with?
Yes, I grew up with a younger sister who is 15 months younger than I am. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, and so so how about so life at home wasn't perfect, right? But you found your escape out there in the outdoors, and what did you do as a young man? Like when you came out of high school, what direction did you go in?
Well, I wanted to leave New Mexico coming out of high school, so I went to undergraduate school at Tulane University in New Orleans, and I had a completely different and very fun experience. You can imagine I experienced the New Orleans experience for 4 years.
You went from the dry heat to the moist heat, and
yes,
a little bit of Mardi Gras atmosphere, huh?
A lot of Mardi Gras atmosphere all the time, and not just during Mardi Gras as
Hey,
well.
right. Well, it's college age, right?
Right.
Uh,
Yes, and that was very fun for me. And then I've lived all over the world. Really, travel has always been a large part of my life. From when I was a young child, I would travel extensively. I had grandparents that wanted me to see the world. This is my mother's parents who took me when I was very young on some very wonderful journeys that have really kind of formed a part of who I am. So travel and experiencing different cultures has always been a part of that, and that's really been a huge part of life, not just as a young man, but also as a middle-aged man. I'm 48 now, and my wife and I have just spent the better part of the last 3 years in Mexico traveling. We sold our
oh,
house in Oregon 3 years ago and spent 2.5 years moving around Mexico. It
that's
was wonderful.
fantastic. Okay, so Tomas, so you were saying that with your grandparents, you traveled a lot and it formed a big part of who you are. And
Yes.
you used to live in Oregon and
Mhm.
traveled a lot down in Mexico recently.
I
And
did.
with the name Tomas Garza, can I assume maybe you speak some Spanish?
You can assume that, yes, and you'd
Is
be
it true?
absolutely correct. Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's true.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you have some Spanish background in there, Hispanic.
I do on my dad's side. My dad grew up in El Paso, Texas, and he has spoken Spanish his entire life, and I have too. I'm bilingual in English and Spanish, so I learned from an early age a lot of the swear words
Yeah,
came from him as well.
yeah.
So I'll give him credit for that.
I know how to say
Yeah.
cállate, vaya, vaya carajo. Let's see, my mother was, I hope we don't have an international audience here, but no, my mom's from Cuba
Oh,
and
okay.
she never taught me. So, because my older sisters, she would speak Spanish to them when they were little. And it was back before I thought they, thought it was a good idea to learn languages growing up.
Sure.
And so the teacher criticized my mother for speaking something other than English. She wanted, don't speak, don't confuse them with two languages, she said.
Oh, okay.
So
No.
by the time I came around, she didn't speak in Spanish at home anymore unless she was really mad.
Oh, okay. So
And
you got cállate carajo in
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
case. Okay.
So I
Gotcha.
learned all those, but I studied it in school. And
Hmm.
anyway, okay. So what did you study in there at Tulane?
I studied anthropology at
Ooh,
Tulane. Yes, it was very fun.
yeah,
Interesting.
I love
Very
that subject. Really
good.
interesting.
Hmm.
And so then what?
After that, well, I spent some time as a guide on a fishing outfit in New Mexico. I did not do anything with my anthropology degree in the conventional sense of the word. I always went into undergraduate school knowing that an undergraduate degree meant that a person is trainable, and if unless you, I mean, that's really quite
If you
literally.
have a college degree, it's just like a extra check that yeah, this person will stick
Yes.
for 4 years.
It means that someone can stick to something and see it through to the end. It means they are capable of fastidiousness, of studying,
Right.
something like that. And I always went in with that attitude. So I never actually had a job that was directly related to the field of anthropology. But I spent about a year and a half living in a very remote part of northwestern New Mexico called Navajo Dam. It's by the San Juan River, which is a very famous trout fishing river in northwest New Mexico. Now, a lot of people come all over the world to do fly fishing there. So I lived in that area for about a year and a half, and then I went off to law school as I was thinking
Really?
that, yeah, I thought
I didn't
that
see
that
that
would be
coming at all. I really didn't
no.
see that coming.
Good. Yeah. All right. So
Yeah,
surprise, surprise.
yeah,
Yeah, there we are. And that was how I moved to Oregon. I went to the Northwestern School of Law at Lewis and Clark College in Portland. And that was something that didn't really necessarily come out of left field for me because in my family, that was one of the things that was kind of drilled into kids, especially those who enjoyed school like I did. So I really enjoyed studying. I enjoyed reading. I enjoyed writing, literature, languages, that sort of thing. And I just found myself there. And once I began law school, I found myself not liking it.
Yeah, I've heard that from people before too, that they thought that sounded like a good idea until they got
Mm.
there. Yeah. So
Well,
stick with
yes.
it, or did you decide to leave that?
No, I stuck with it, and I'm very glad that I did. In fact, I really am, because there are unintended consequences to my sticking with it that I never thought of at the time. I just never, it never occurred to me to seriously quit. But because by the time I had gotten about halfway through, I was spending my own money on it. So I didn't have a scholarship. And granted, this was in the 1990s. So the cost of higher education was much less than it is today. I wouldn't have done that these days, but back then it was fine to do. So I just stuck with it. It didn't occur to me that quitting that was an option, and it was a lot of pain. It was a lot of torture and suffering. And for me, I have a lot of friends who are attorneys, and they're still attorneys to this day, so it worked for them. But it was a very difficult process and lesson for me to realize, okay, this is just not my thing. So what exactly am I doing here? Why do I keep showing up again and again, and, well, brutalizing myself? Because that's what it was.
So did you finish it?
I did.
You
I
did, and
did.
did you go into practice?
I went into a related area of practice. So one of the best things that I ever did, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, was to refuse to sit for the bar exam when I was done. So what a lot of people don't realize is that a law degree is just the degree. It doesn't confer on
Right.
you the
You have
right.
to take the big test.
Yeah.
Like
Right. And I refused to do that.
that.
I
It costs,
refused to do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah, I'm done.
I'm done.
Okay.
I was done. And instead of sitting for the bar exam, my wife at the time and I went into the Peace Corps, and we lived in Mongolia for a year and a half.
Gosh. And you don't
Yes.
need a law degree to go to Mongolia, right?
No, you don't.
Wow,
No, you
what
don't.
an interesting decision. And
Mm.
so tell me about that experience there.
That was something that I had always wanted to do, because as we referenced earlier in the conversation, I had a lot of exposure to travel as a young child, and a lot of it was international. So I was very, very curious about what it would be like to live in another part of the world, to eat someone else's food, to partake in their customs. And, as a United States citizen, that's always an option for people that love to travel. Especially for people that don't have a lot of money to travel. And I did not at the time, having just blown it all
Yeah,
on law school and a big, fancy, expensive degree. So
yeah,
yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it's just one of those experiences that's really, really eye-opening. We were in a very remote town in Western Mongolia,
wow.
so 1,000 kilometers away from the capital, isolated, and it was eye-opening. So it's the highest highs and the lowest lows when you're in that kind of environment, for sure.
Wow. So this is getting more interesting as we go, because I didn't
Mhm.
expect school. I certainly didn't expect Mongolia after law school. It's like,
Right.
what'd you do with your degree? I went to Mongolia. So did you
That's what
continue?
everyone does.
Yeah, right. Did you
Yeah.
continue with your degree, with your Peace Corps? Did you continue doing that longer, or was that like your stint and then you came back and lived a normal life? Or I can't imagine normal life yet, though, right?
No, I don't know. I honestly don't know that I have what's considered a normal life. I guess because I've done so many different things that many people have done more things than I have, but there are a number of people who have not done what I've done. I don't really consider it normal. But I did go back and go into career life. So in that sense, it was perfectly normal,
Came
according to.
back, settled down for a while in one place, and worked a job, and what did you do?
Well, I was in private practice as a mediator, so I didn't stray very far from the legal field. I went into alternative dispute resolution and had a private practice for 13 years. So I still exposed myself to plenty of people's conflicts and plenty of people's drama, and did mostly family law. So a number of my clients, almost all of them, were in the middle of a divorce or a child custody dispute. So you can imagine those are not pretty at all. And high stakes stuff. Yeah.
And what I see there, though, is what's coming out in that choice is the helping field.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that like nobody goes into something like mediation unless they want to help people.
Right.
You don't do it for fun, right? So,
No.
yeah. And there's other ways
No.
you can make a living. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, and you know, of course, the Peace Corps, that would be a helping field, obviously.
Right.
So it sounds to me like somewhere along the way you picked up that altruistic, you know, gene or drive. So
Yeah.
so I'm curious. You know, I'm seeing this transition, like, you know, and you were like, could have gone off and been a lawyer, which is a helping field too, but there's some dispute about that depending on
Yes.
who you talk to. But so from the mediation, you know, moving forward to now, what was the transition that brought you into finding meditation? Is that something that happened during your mediation days? And of course, so for the audience, as I introduced, that Tomas found meditation and did it, you know, I guess I need to ask you about that in 1980s. So yeah, in the 1980s you were meditating. So you were already meditating all the way through that, right?
I was.
Okay. So
Yes.
how'd you find meditation? Where'd that pop up?
I
And then
found it in,
try it together.
yeah, it was really interesting. I found it in high school geometry class, of all places. So, yeah, it's not a retreat in the Himalayas. I didn't go
Uh-huh.
up to a retreat center or a monastery or anything like that and take a weekend seminar. My high school geometry teacher, I was in 10th grade, so mid 1980s, circa 1985, I would say, he was very interested in meditation and had a practice for a number of years. Very, very calm guy. So he was one of these people that looks like and gives the aura of having meditated extensively. So
Chill.
yeah, very chill, very composed, and not easily riled by a group of sophomores in high school, which could get on someone's nerves, for sure. And he would have us meditate at the beginning of class every day. And while other kids rolled their eyes and pretended to do it and laughed, I actually found myself connecting with it. I connected
Okay.
with it really deeply, and just was able to connect to that. And I liked it so much that I just started doing it on my own. So that's how I began. Yeah.
Okay.
And I really credit that with a lot of things. It really helped me get through some of the more challenging aspects in my life, some of the challenging Peace Corps moments, some of the law school, which was one giant challenge, and not just the academics, but the actual culture of it was one of the things that I didn't resonate with at all. So
Maybe a lot of the people have a
yeah.
different mindset. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's a very different mindset than the one that I knew that I was comfortable with. And I just couldn't I couldn't practically think of myself as doing it for 40 years to 50 years and forget about the money. I'll leave that on the table because it wasn't worth it. So yeah. But meditation has been really, really central in all of this. It's really kind of formed a core. I didn't realize this until several decades had passed. I didn't realize the impact that this had on my life until really probably a few years ago.
Yeah.
And
And so
yeah.
was there an aha moment that kind of tied that together for you?
Yes, there was. It was a series of moments, more like a cluster. And this was really a couple of years ago. I just realized in 2018 that I had all of this experience and that it was time for me to begin to teach. It was time. The timing was right for me to begin to share this with people. And I started by having an in-person meditation class at a friend's yoga studio in Oregon, and that's how I began that. Now that has opened up all kinds of doors, but that was really just recently, a couple of years ago.
2018, it looks like on here. So
Mhm.
you're relatively new to the sharing, teaching, and wellness, right? Were you doing anything like teaching, life coaching, anything like that? It was your base um, is meditation and teaching. So you just really moved into it recently.
I did, and come that formally as a teacher, but
That's
come
what I
to
mean.
think of it, yeah, my entire life experience was really predicated around that. And this will tie into the mediation component as well, because I've always been someone that people come to. Some people are just, it seems, born to hear out people's
Mhm.
issues or their complaints, their problems. People bring things to certain kinds of people because they feel safe, because this person is able to listen to them, and that they perceive that, okay, this is a safe space, someone can hold this space for me. And the term holding space, as people use it in spiritual terms, never occurred to me, but that's exactly what I was doing as a child when people would come to me with their issues.
Really? And you just
Mediation was a very natural.
my internet just did a little wanky thing, so
Oh
hopefully
yeah,
that won't mess us up too much. Um, I was to the audience. I was where, as you know, this is a audio and a video, and I was complaining to Tomas that my internet Xfinity tells me it's perfect,
mm,
but sometimes I experience otherwise. So
all right.
and that's true. You know, I think also the training that you got as a mediator, there's something to that it goes into that just the way that, you know, you probably communicate in general, the way that you can be the observer more easily.
Yes.
Right out of college, I was trained as a facilitator,
Mhm.
um, group facilitation, and the the whole you know, the I speak, remember I speak, like when you
I
do
do.
or say I think or feel, and to teach that to others as part of this bigger program, and
Sure.
learning that, and of course having to use it in my environment and making it more natural, which is that weird step when you have try to make it natural instead of saying you make me so mad. there's
Right.
there's that learning that um, that when I'm communicating with someone, oh yeah, I believe me, I get mad, and but if it's not like I'm thinking of Facebook, for example, you know, people start fighting and calling each other names, and they're not listening, and they
Right.
categorize each other, and I'm like, you guys, just like, no one's going to hear you, what your opinion, if you're telling them they're stupid, they're wrong, they're any of that. So
Mm,
there's something to it that just makes it more automatic, like a default. And so I too find people, and of course it's great for me because as a life coach and hypnotherapist, I'm supposed to be safe to talk to. But I
right.
luckily do find that that was a really good basis for being open and non-judgmental to what people have to share with you. And, you know,
Yeah.
instead of being subjective and making judgments, being objective and saying, it's not my thing, it's their thing, and I'm here to help them with it. You
Hmm.
know, so I
Right.
kind of had to throw that in there as a, you know, maybe that was also, what's it called? Veiled, veiled, not criticism, but veiled advice to the listeners and the audience when you're interacting with people. You
Mhm.
know, see how much you can be the observer, not if it's getting heated, if you're feeling, like you want to call the person names or you're thinking they're stupid, like kind of pretend like you're just watching the conversation sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Be
Right.
third person, and I think you get a better communication out of that. So, and like you say, that for someone who works with people, you just have that openness, right? And so you attract people to that aura that you have. And then you moved into sharing. Now, were you formally trained in any sort of particular meditation? Because I know that there's I've done meditation workshops, and I'm not formally trained in any. Well, I am actually, but we won't go there. But I was explaining to them that there's all sorts of meditation because somebody says this isn't meditation. So I'm curious, what is your process when you teach meditation? What do you teach? I mean, how do you empty the mind? Do you allow thoughts to come and go? Do you focus? How do you do it? And is there one way, a right way, or a wrong way?
Oh, okay. Well, there's no right or wrong way in the way that people usually think of it. People think, oh gosh, this is one of the excuses, of course, that people use for not taking up meditation or any kind of practice is that I'm not doing it right. I'm afraid that I won't do it right.
People think they're not going to do it right. It's like,
I'll be doing it wrong, or I'll have thoughts. Well, I hope so. Right? Yes. I mean, so when I teach it, I've had a number of different teachers. So my high school geometry teacher just taught basic pranayama, just basic breath meditation. And I've studied in other traditions as well, in particular in Tibetan Buddhism. I spent some time in the late 1990s, early 2000s, really practicing a lot of Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhism. So there are different forms of meditation, different levels of absorption. But for someone just looking to become a little bit calmer in daily life, one of my favorite meditation teachings is that a single meditation, very successful meditation, can be as short as one breath. Just one breath. If you pay attention to it, you do have time to take your next breath, I hope. Yes. So we can all do that. It's something that automatically calms us. And if you take a one breath meditation, you can take a second. And there are many different ways, many different techniques. And what is very new to me is teaching meditation online. I've only taught in person before, where you are able to feel the energy in the room and just have an intuitive sense of what somebody is going through by their body language, by the energy that they're putting off. So you can adapt teachings that way. But yeah, very simple, very basic and short is just fine. One of the common misperceptions is that you have to run off to the Himalayas, take up robes, become a monk or a nun, and abandon your whole life, abandon cocktail parties, dinners, that sort of thing. Well, you don't, happily. So,
right. So, one of the things that like I said, I'm not necessarily a meditation teacher, and I don't know all the different kinds that are out there. But when I do talk to clients, one of the things I try to encourage them to do is, like you're saying, is there a mindfulness? Isn't there? Just like that moment. And so when you said cocktail party, I'm thinking even that can give you the opportunity for a little mini meditation. If you just look at the color of your wine, just be there for a minute, so or even
yes.
the little things, and just taste the wine. People rush through their lives so fast, and like you said, some people are like, I don't have time for meditation, and but they're rushing so fast to get to have time for meditation instead of incorporating it into their lifestyle.
Right.
For those little moments. And so I'm going to introduce the fact about IAUSM.
Okay, love it.
Talking about meditation. And are you going to be, you're teaching, and are you going to be offering a meditation class online there?
I am. I'm going to be offering a meditation class in Spanish on my
Oh,
yes.
bueno.
qué bueno, yes. And I will not be telling anybody, cállate, carajo.
Yeah, no, no cállates.
No.
Cállate ¿cómo se dice? Brain.
Cerebro. Uh-huh.
Yeah, tell that to
Cerebro.
cállate.
Uh-huh.
So, so now that talk about IAUSM,
Mhm.
the International Academy of Universal Self-Mastery, is what brought us together and how we met. And it is a brand new, amazing entity of its own, as our friend and our dear leader of the Academy, Isa Hogan, would describe it. It's like an academy, and you know what? But you are on the council, and I'm one of the teachers too. So we're both looking forward to this very much. It's going to, you'll probably be listening to this just before it launches. So keep your eyes open, because I'll be editing this and then putting it up for everyone to listen to. But would you describe the university to people, and and then also about your class and just what it's going to be about?
Okay, yeah, well, I'd be happy to. So IAUSM is, as Desiree, as you mentioned at the outset of the show, it's an acronym for the International Academy of Universal Self-Mastery. It's actually gone through a name change. We were not able to simply say University of Self-Mastery, which was the original title due to accreditation reasons.
Yeah, I think somebody grabbed that years ago and never used it anymore, or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And so it's been through a name change, but what this is an online academy. It's worldwide. So we have over 150 faculty members now that have been coming in from all over the world, teaching on subjects, all of it online, related to personal transformation, personal growth, self-mastery, as we talk about, spirituality. So there are all kinds of holistic related topics like that. And it's also a social platform as well. So it's a very special online academy that launches officially on October 5th of this year. So in 4 weeks, from 4 weeks from this recording anyway. So
right. Today's the 8th. September 8th is when we're recording this for any reference, but that'll also be,
right. Yeah, and so if you're listening to the show, then out there in October, November, we'll have already launched, and the platform is available. It's open to anyone who's curious about exploring any of these topics, and it's worth noting to the listener that there are offerings that you can pay for. There are paid courses. You've got one, I've got a few as well. And there are also a number of offerings for free. So people can come on, they can join the platform and take some classes absolutely for free. And it's $9.99 US to subscribe, and you have access to this entire catalog.
And then in addition to that, like, I have so many ideas. We just, every now and then we have a faculty meeting on Zoom, and so we were just talking yesterday on a faculty meeting. I just keep getting ideas that come to me of courses I want to teach. So I'm really looking forward to, because it's just going to keep expanding as we have more and more teachers and more classes. So I'm going to have a free one on there and a paid one right now, but I got to just get busy with uploading them onto the platform. I'm also looking forward, what you didn't mention are some people, it's not just only pre-recorded, and I don't know if you're going to have yours pre-recorded or you're doing it live.
I'm doing both. I'm doing both. I have some pre-recorded videos, and I'm going to have a live component.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to doing that too. So there can be live interaction, sort of like we're doing this, between he and I are doing this interview here, on platforms where people can interact in real time, and also, communicate with each other. There's going to be groups, and just a nice place where everyone is going to be positive and healthy and think of wellness and have good interactions.
Yes.
There's nothing to fight about. Like which meditation is better than the other. No arguments. Okay. Right. And so describe your classes then, the ones you're looking at doing.
Okay. Well, the meditation class in Spanish is a basic meditation class. So I'm devising that as, if you're a Spanish speaker, as a 4-week class. Now, there are other meditation instructors on the faculty that will be teaching in English. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to keep a nice small limit on the amount of people teaching one particular subject. So there aren't 78 basic hatha yoga teachers and 83 meditation teachers in English. So yeah, we're keeping a tight limit on that. So it'll be a 4-week course with a live component. People will be able to watch a pre-recorded video, and then I'll be giving them homework to go off and practice certain elements of meditation. And we'll have a weekly Zoom, which I'll record, and it'll be an opportunity for people to have a live Q&A, live interaction. We'll do that within the course group that we're going to have. And it'll be just a primer. And my goal on that is to introduce people to the fundamentals of meditation and begin to see some of the practical benefits in their own life, so they'll be inspired to take that the next step.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to, I'm looking forward to trying to take everybody's courses, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's so hard to look at all the things, and even just looking at the different teachers, and like you know, interesting backgrounds, interesting people, and really fun to get to know. I wanted to also bring out that there's a Facebook page, right?
Yes.
Where people can go now, even before the official opening of the academy, and it is it's by the same name, the International Academy of Universal Self-Mastery.
Right.
And is that where they can find your interviews, where you are the host, and for IAUSM? So where would they find you talking to the other teachers if they wanted to find out?
Okay. Well, and so, yeah, for the listener, then this is what Desiree, what you're referring to are the faculty spotlight interviews. And so I get to sit down, and I really want to take everyone's class, because I've spoken literally with almost everybody that's come in. And these faculty spotlights are 10 to 15 minutes, like ours, where we highlight the faculty member, what they're teaching at the academy, and why they're passionate about it. So you can currently find these on our YouTube channel. They're all updated there on YouTube, and that's the International Academy of Universal Self-Mastery. And then it will be on our website. That's IAUSM, IAUSM.com. The site is currently being built. So once it is built and we're launched, all of those spotlight interviews will also be available there as well. And these are short conversations that I've had with everybody, and they're fascinating.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see how everyone's come to their, gone from where they were, and transitioned into helping other people. Now, tell me about your podcast. How long have you been doing that? Your podcast name, again, is Decide to Transform. And how long have you been doing a podcast?
I've been in the podcast world for just a little under a year, actually. It's been recent, but it's been very significant. And this is one of the things that came from my teaching meditation, stepping up, honestly, is the way I like to call that, in 2018 to start teaching. That led to my writing a book, which led me into publishing.
I didn't know about the book.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I wrote and published a book last year and was looking at podcasting as one of the ways to further my message, get that out there. And I began to really enjoy that.
Yeah, you have the voice for it. Listen to that voice, people. Like, does he not have the voice of a announcer? He's really, really great voice. And also your cadence and just your calmness. You've really got a natural way.
Thank you. Yeah.
So tell me about your podcast and tell me about your book, both.
For sure. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I guess we'll start with the podcast. The podcast called Decide to Transform began as an internet radio show, a live show. So I've done both a live internet radio show and now it's a more traditional podcast. And there are so many wonderful things about both. I'm enjoying the podcasting, but this began as a live internet radio show on Om Times Radio, and I had that show until June of this year. Now it's a podcast, and I'm enjoying the flexibility of being able to pre-record and edit if I want to, right? And release as many shows as I want to, or none at all during a given time frame. And yeah, that kind of creative flexibility and control I really enjoy. But I'm really enjoy the teaching component. So a number of my shows have been solo, where I simply get up and talk, because I find I have a lot to say. And then I also interview guests. I've been doing a lot of that lately, and a number of them, like yourself, are faculty members at IAUSM and members of the IAUSM Council. So I'm just surrounded by a lot of fantastic, highly intelligent and committed people. So I've had some beautiful guest interviews lately. And it's so much fun just for me to, in a way, it's a lot like mediation. In a way, it's a lot like everything that I've always done, because being a show host is holding space and offering people a platform for them to express themselves in whatever way that is, to further whatever message it is that they want to further, and just to give them that creative flexibility, that creative place is really wonderful for me, and I really enjoy that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And I think it takes having a real interest in people too.
It does.
Because I'm always interested in people. I really enjoy the interviews when I do them too, because I just find people's lives fascinating. And with today, I know I'm so busy, and we might just kind of cross paths or see people on the Zoom big meetings, or hear their name, or they're a Facebook friend, but don't really know that much about them because we're so busy. They're busy, I'm busy. And so doing an interview like I'm doing here gives me a chance to actually get to know that person, instead of it being so kind of just surface. So so tell me about your book.
Oh, sure. Yes, my book is called Decide. There's just the verb decide, and released last year. That was I guess it was the product of my teaching meditation. So once I made that decision to begin sharing my experience, officially, formally sharing my experience with the world, a number of things opened up. So from the meditation classes that I originally taught at my friend's yoga studio came every excuse in the book for why this won't work, right? For why I have this limiting story, this limiting concept. And I quickly, in just over the span of a couple of months, formulated the ideas for a full length, and it's a 400-pager.
Wow, that's not full length. That's like Congress wrote it.
It's a long read, but it's fun, and the print is large. I use a large font, so
that's an undertaking. Wow.
Well, it was, yeah.
So what does the book lead you through? What does it? It's called Decide. Is it a path forward? Is it what would somebody, as they pick up your book, where are they going to go?
Well, internally, hopefully they'll do some self-examination, because the thrust of the book is overcoming and working with your limiting stories, such as I can't, I'm not good enough, I'm too old, I'm too young, it's just not for me, that type of thing. All of the reasons people give for not doing something that they know deep down that they want to do. And it could be meditation, but it could be anything spiritual. It could be in your relationship and in physical health, in someone's job or career arena. These things get in the way. So the book teaches how to work with that and move beyond it in a way that that hopefully will work for you, that's accessible. And then that's one of the things that I've always wanted, is to make spirituality and personal growth accessible for people, and break it down into chunks that are still effective, but they're a lot more doable than a
Right.
long retreat. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. It sounds like a wonderful book.
It's fun. It was
Yeah.
fun to write.
Well, you know, and have you thought of doing another one since that?
Well, I have, and I don't know when that will happen. Actually, I
When are
don't
you
know
going
when
to
it will happen,
decide to
but
do it? No, I'm kidding.
no, yeah,
You
well, and that's yeah, and then
got to
to
read that book first, and then
yes, well, and it's all about I call it the book Decide, because it's all about a power of decision. And what
yeah,
really happens is that every moment of every day we have a choice. We can choose our higher self, or we can choose fear. We can stay small, or we can choose to expand ourselves. And it really is, those are the only two options that are really available. Everything else is a subset of that, and
mhm,
that's a decision that we get to make. And that was so prominent that's what I went ahead and named the book.
yeah,
But yeah, and as far as the second book, well, I have ideas, but that's not on the immediate
yeah,
horizon. Not yet.
yeah. Well, I kind of asked that from from my point of view too. It's like I have a book I put out. I don't know when. It was a few years ago, like maybe 3 years,
Hmm.
and I loved putting it together. And I thought,
Yeah.
this is great. I'm going to do another one. And I have all sorts of ideas. And it's somebody. Actually, my boyfriend, he makes music, and I asked him, "What do you ever do with this song that you started?" And I never heard the rest. Like, you never finished it. And he goes, "It's in the can." I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's that term as a musician.
Hmm.
They say, well, if you got an unfinished tune or something, it's in the can." And I'm like, okay, so I guess I have a lot of stuff in the can. I hope
Yeah.
it doesn't mean the trash can. I just hope it's potential. But like I said,
Right.
so many, you know, fun things to do.
There are.
Creative, and hopefully helpful too. So
Yeah. Yeah, there are. I think a lot of people have all kinds of things in the can, so to
mhm,
speak.
yeah,
There's a lot of, we don't have, all of us, the time to do that, because there's only 24 hours in the day, and we're all running around doing different things, including sleeping. So
yeah, that sleeping
yeah.
part. I like that part.
Hmm. That's nice.
Some people sacrifice. They're like, oh, I only sleep 5 hours a night, so I can do this and this. And I'm like, okay, that's good for you, not for me.
Mhm.
I will definitely not give up my sleep if I can avoid it.
Right.
Anyway, how about well, right now with the COVID shutdown that's going on and that sort of thing and limitations, I know it may be a little different, but do you work usually? Would there be a space where you work locally and in person with people, or is it you know?
Yeah, I used to, but
Yeah.
since we've been traveling around, I have not done that for a while. So everything has been online. Everything that I teach, whether it's something that I teach on my own, or something that I co-teach, because I actually have a business partner and a co-teacher on some large projects that we're going to bring to IAUSM as well. So it's all online or over the telephone. So yeah, so the COVID shutdown really, I think, brought a lot of people uh, to me. And it wasn't a huge adjustment. Actually, the worst adjustment was the fact that we had several trips planned for March and April that we had to cancel. Yeah, international. So
I had a lot of trips planned. As
yeah,
roommates with Aisha in we were going to
right.
be roommates in Amsterdam.
Hmm.
That got canceled. So uh,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I know. But there's been oddly benefits. At first it was like resistance to the what I say is it's like somebody shook your snow globe. So I feel like 2020 is like somebody shook your snow globe, and
Right.
first it was like that unsettling thing about changes, and uh, but then after like you know flipping and seeing the benefits, all those canceled trips. I'm like, well, I have a lot more money than I would have because I'm not traveling.
Yes.
And I have more time than I would have. And, so there are benefits, but also here we are carrying on, but in a different way. And even, you and I might not have met because Aisha may not have gone in this direction because she would have been too busy traveling herself, maybe.
Possibly.
So
Right.
things, the snow globe got shaken and then the little things fell where they belong. And
Yeah.
just kind of saying, oh, well, look at that. Isn't that different than it was? And
Right. It is. And here
traveling,
we are.
yeah,
Right. And here we are creating an online academy for people to come. And it has just, everybody is now using Zoom, and people are more attuned to this way of education, of interacting with each other. So that's
Thank
going
you
to
so
end up being
much
a
for
beautiful
joining
thing.
me on
and you know
Intuitive
what,
Journey with Desiree. Sorry about
I
the
really
interruption at the end.
appreciate the
I'll
part of
see you
it
next
where it
time.
made online education acceptable, not just
Mhm.
like, how it used to be, oh, well, that's online, that's not real, or that's not as good as.
Right.
But now, like even school, colleges, we're forced to switch to online. And so what I like is that now online will not be considered less than, I don't think.
Right.
People have also appreciated, wow, I can take this class that I could not have traveled to that place for. I have a group that meets on Saturdays, and it used to be like 5 to 10 of us, pretty much every week, like a
Mhm.
study group. But now that went online, we have people from Texas, from South Carolina, from all around that joined in on Zoom that are part of a bigger organization, and said, "Oh, you have weekly meetings? Well, we'll join in." So it's created opportunity.
Yeah.
And as I was driving out to an appointment today, and I was like, "Whoa, this traffic!" I thought it was going to take me forever, but it was light. And I live in Washington D.C., so to say,
Mhm.
and this was going across through the city, and I was like, "That wasn't bad at all." And it's because of people are working remotely a lot. And
Mhm.
it also occurred to me, going forward from here, there is an opportunity to reassess how much actual physical space do workplaces need.
Right.
If you don't need someone to be there sitting in their cubicle to do what they can do from home, businesses could save money on,
Yeah.
a smaller office space, and people can work from home. There's a lot of benefits to that. And I think there's going to be a big shift to that permanent change in a lot of ways
Right.
as we go back, because people aren't, like, I've been teaching virtually on Zoom as well for a community college that I teach for. And I'm like, why would I want to get in the car and drive out there and drive back? And, especially I think of winter time, and I'd have to like worry about, am I going to get stuck in snow if the weather's bad, because they might still have class even if my weather's bad. So yeah, I think there's going to be both benefit and resistance to going back to people that say come back
Sure.
in person. So
Right. Well, one thing's for sure is that things aren't going to go fully back to the way they were before, which is a good thing in a
yeah,
lot of
a lot of
cases.
it's good. Some
Yeah.
of it I'm like, I don't know what's going to go on here. As long as I can take
Mhm.
off that mask, right?
Yes.
I,
Yeah,
I,
taking off the mask and being able to travel internationally again
yes,
would be
please.
really
Yeah,
most wonderful, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Without having to row your own boat or something, right?
Right. Mhm.
Anyway, so we are hitting about an hour now that we've been talking. And I just want to ask you if there's anything else you want to share with the audience and the listeners.
Well, I've really enjoyed speaking with you. So, thank
You
you very
too.
much for having me on. I just want to invite everybody to please visit the platform of our offerings at IAUSM, and it's IAUSM, iawesome.com. So again, IAUSM.com. It's where you can find Desiree. They can find your courses. They can find my courses. They can find my business partner, Lisa Berry, and they can find the community, because it's really a community.
Thank you so much for joining me on Intuitive Journey with Desiree. Sorry about the interruption at the end. I'll see you next time.